In this week's Destiny video, I'm covering ARH8's Carson Teva, a hero I'm completely shocked hasn't actually had a larger impact. Is he simply suffering from the errata effect, or has the game truly moved beyond run and gun? A huge shout out to our channel members for supporting what we do here. If you want to get involved with the channel and the Dice Commando community, please consider joining as a channel member. Remember, these videos are only possible with your support. You can show that support with a like, a subscribe, and by leaving us a comment and sharing your feedback. Community first, and go Commando. Hey there, my Star Wars Destiny friends. Welcome back to Dice Commando and the Commando cast, and thanks for checking in here on your Destiny Friday for a continuation of the ARH8 in Focus series. Today, we're talking Carson Teva, the red pilot, the super cool red pilot. It's actually what I played coming out of the ARH drop into the release tournament. It was good old Carson. Now, he was, let's back up to the original version of him and the original drop of him, right? So what had happened headed into ARH8 release was Benthic was added at 12:15 to the ARH reprint list, right? So that's Benthic, which is very relevant. Now, why am I talking Benthic? Because, well, Carson Teva also at the time was slightly different. He said of one of your pilot or vehicle dice, I believe it was. So both of those got toned down for obvious, completely correct reasons. Benthic was put back to 16. But Carson also took the little nerf. So that happened basically headed into ARH8 release weekend, and then I ended up on Carson Hera. Now, it wasn't exactly a stretch to put those two together, right? You know me, I kind of like the autopilot decks, pun intended, I suppose, on that. But, you know, once you start looking at Hera's B-Wing, it starts to really kind of stack up and do some pretty cool things with his special, right? So again, he's got 2 gun, 3 indirect, 2 focus. On a pilot, it's pretty good. Resource, special, and a blank. Piloting after one of your pilot dice is removed, place 1 damage on a support or give a character 1 shield, and then move 2 damage from a support to a character or vice versa. Okay, so now cheating ahead just a little bit, what I had obviously played in the release tournament was Carson and Hera. But let's go ahead and go through the available pilots right now for him to pair with. Now, there's one caveat I want to point out before I throw up the list and we go through it, and that is his ability, right? So it's after one of your pilot dice is removed. It doesn't say 1 or more. It says after one of your pilot dice is removed, okay? So you are incentivized to run more pilot dice in this case, right? So for example, all right, let's say Carson Hera again, right? There's a very real deck you can run there where you're actually running AR as well so that you can tutor out the B-Wing. Completely reasonable play, super good, but now you're only working with 3 pilot dice and a very critical vehicle die, right? That you also had to sacrifice and pay for. So under this condition, I think it's better to run 4 pilot dice. That's kind of my approach going in, but I can be swayed in either direction, right? So doing going into the ARH database and doing search on pilot, what we end up with is Akbar, not really good. So let's go ahead and go down to the 15s, right? So we have Cassian Andor, very interesting. We have Dak. Okay, so Dak's just straight good, right? He's 11-14, right? That works. We do, of course, have Benthic up there at 13-16, right? So Dak Benthic, by the way, is the thing. Okay. We have a couple others with Fen Rao, Han Solo, and then down there is Big Hera. Now, you also have Wedge as well. Now, what makes Wedge interesting is that, and he'll be around for one more set. What makes Wedge interesting is you can AR with that, right? So that's pretty cool, because Wedge's X-Wing is not irrelevant. Then we do have Zori Bliss. Seems like a better pair with Benthic to do some crazy stuff, but Carson does have indirect and it does do the thing. But what I want to do now for the rest of this is I want to go over my ARH release party deck and what I was running. So I did go with the the ARH17, the DH17 blaster pistol. This is the gray baby blaster that has redeploy on a red. It's just too good a value. No, it's not a vehicle, but it's just too good value to not, and it stays around the whole game. So what I ended up on was the A-Wings. So 2 of those A-Wings. They're really cool. We'd have Echo Base, so exhaust the support to re-roll a vehicle die, then give character shields equal to the value showing on that die. Seems pretty decent. Little shout out to the Echo folks. We do have 2 Hera B6s. Obviously, it's unique, but the reason I'm running 2 is because you want to get it as early as possible because we're not doing AR. Okay. Marauder, we have in there Rogue 2, Supply Team ×2 because that's really good. So exhaust it and then remove one of your die to place a resource on it. Before we resolve a die, discard the support to increase its value by the number of resources on this support. Okay, so it's kind of something to do with your bad vehicle dice. Wedge's X-Wing, which I spoke to. Then as we go into the events, kind of the beauty of this deck, let's be honest, a lot of it builds itself. You have obviously the pilot package. So we have Assail, we have a break off the attack, we have a collateral damage, deal 1 indirect to yourself, resolve one of your red dice, increasing its value by 1. I like it. We have Eject, which also itself errata, flanked by Wingman for shield power, Power of the Tribe because it's awesome. Refit, we get 1 back. Roll in the Mud, which is absolutely awesome. It does really cool things, especially against characters that get stuff on activation. And then Strategic Strike. So that is what I ended up running. I went 1-1 before I dropped in that tournament. Won my second one. The first one I ran up against a really rough deck and kind of put me in a not a super positive mood for the day. And then the second game was a complete blowout the other direction. And then my son was getting up, so I called it a day on that one. But had fun nonetheless, getting to roll and do some run and gun type stuff with good old Carson Teva. So as I mentioned, I am a little surprised he hasn't done a little more. And what I mentioned, is it just the errata effect? That is something that from a Star Wars Destiny culture standpoint, and this was even in the FFG days, we would see that from time to time where if a character would get an errata or a points balance or something like that, typically it was more errata. If they were super, super, super good to earn them this set errata, and then they get bumped down, a lot of times folks don't look at them anymore. And it doesn't mean they're not still good. And I think that's the case in Carson, like just because, he was in a really super crazy deck such that both got nerfed a little bit. And again, correctly so, reasonably so, I should say, right? Whether you agree with correctly or not, reasonably so to nerf them a little bit. But I think a lot of times when you see that, like, oh, they're not as good as they used to be, and then we just mentally move on because we have a very large card pool to play with, and fair enough. So I do wonder if that's not what's happening here. Again, I haven't seen the latest week roll-up of the World Cup, so maybe some folks are bringing out the spice with that. So we will see, or maybe it's just too simple of a deck, and it's for a guy like this to play on. So either way, let me know what you're thinking, folks. Happy Destiny Friday. Go Commando.